Hello friends and my lovely viewers. Welcome back to the channel of Neon Safe. Today we will check out the new Umbra champions. Let's get started.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. I'm tired of shit.
The clan trait of our Umbra champions is called Lunar Mark. At level 18, when active skills deal damage, the target will receive 40.1% increase in critical damage taken. This effect lasts for 5 seconds and cannot stack. It sounds very promising in my opinion. Champions that may profit from having this type of trait are those who deal damage in their active skill, preferably critical damage, and who launches their active skill frequently. Our clan trait basically weakens opponents by making them vulnerable to critical damage attacks, and we may benefit massively from this if our team is based on dealing critical damage. But if we mostly have a team comp that does not deliver attacks with critical damage, then we may not want this clan trait for our team. That being said, let us take a look at the male champion of this clan whose name is Jansen. His active skill grants a shield that protects himself and nearby allies with about 480% of Jansen's strength. The shield lasts for 6 seconds. Once the time is up, Jansen will knock back enemies and deal 770% strength damage, before briefly stunning them for 2 seconds. For each enemy he hits, Jansen gains 1 charge and a shield equal to 120% strength for 6 seconds. When preparing to release this skill, if there are enemies within melee range of an ally blessed by lunar power, Jansen will prioritize protecting that ally by standing in front of him or her. Our Jansen is also immune to control during skill release. Our male Umbra is basically acting like a tank. He creates shields for both himself and the allies of his team, but he also deals some AoE damage to enemies, and pushes them back to their half of the battlefield. He protects the lunar power blessed allies, if the conditions are right. And overall he is just being a very protective and caring tank, who also deals damage. He looks alright, but not overly impressive. Jansen is like this overly protective bodyguard who only cares about keeping others safe. And another thing I realized is that he doesn't have any critical damage properties in his active skill, so it doesn't align with his clan trait unfortunately. Anyways, let us move on to his passive skill. Our Jansen and the ally with the highest strength will be blessed with lunar power. Our lunar blessed champions will take 30% less skill damage and gain a permanent strength increase of 6.5%. The strength increase adds up every 5 seconds and can reach a total of 32.5%. This basically means he will gain 6.5% immediately, then after 5 seconds it would add up to become a 13% strength buff, 10 seconds would make it 19.5%, 15 seconds would mean a 26% strength buff, and at 20 seconds we would have the final 32.5% strength buff. Feel free to correct me if my calculations are wrong. Anyways, this buff will last the entire battle and cannot be dispelled. During the battle, each time our Jansen and blessed ally uses a skill, our Jansen will gain 1 charge point, with a cap of 7 charge points. To put it simply, he will protect our highest strength ally from taking skill damage, by a certain percentage. And that same chosen ally will also gain a permanent strength buff that increases as time goes by. This looks very useful to be honest. If we have an ultra DPS strength-based champion in our team from before, then this Jansen champion could seriously be a great supporter to him or her. He is built to support and protect high-strength DPS champions, and indirectly increase the damage output of our DPS champions. But we are not done yet. We still have his ultimate skill to discuss. Jansen will consume all current charges. For each charge consumed, he restores 3% constitution. Afterwards, he launches a 980% strength damage attack in the direction of his current target. This attack also hits the enemies in the area and knocks them back significantly. For each charge number he consumed earlier, this skill's damage will be increased by an extra 8%, and the active skill cooldown will also be reduced by 5%. Jansen's ultimate skill is entirely based on dealing damage. The only minor additional things he has is the tiny constitution restoration and the knockback effect. This is very different from his active and passive skill, where he was more focused on helping out his teammates. I think only his knockback effect is kinda indirectly supporting or protecting his allies. And how much damage he might deal is kinda dependent on how much charge points he saves up before launching this ultimate skill. If we use his ultimate too early in battle, then he may not live up to his full potential. Anyways, overall he looks useful with our current meta champions. As long as he is placed in battle with one really good strength-based DPS champion, he may perform to the best of his abilities. Whether he is worth it still remains a question though. Normally we avoid warrior class champions, because they in general have proven to underperform in battle. But maybe Bloodline is trying to make a change. For now, let us check out the female before we properly conclude with anything. The female Umbra goes by the name of Anria. In her active skill, she will cause arrows to rain down in the area with the most enemies. This attack will last for 4 seconds, and deals 125% strength-based damage every 0.5 seconds, aka a total of 8 times. Each of these 8 strikes has a 50% chance of stunning the enemy for 0.5 seconds, and a 50% chance of applying a lunar corrosion effect. This lunar corrosion effect reduces the affected enemy's critical evade rate by 27% for 5 seconds. The effect cannot stack. While Anria is in something called an ultimate enhancement state, her chance to trigger stun will be increased by 70% instead of 50%. This female Umbra is basically focused on dealing damage and debuffing the enemies. 125% strength damage into 8 times may add up to quite a bit. And I particularly like the critical evade rate debuff that she has a 50% chance of applying to the enemy. It aligns really well with the clan trait, since the clan trait makes the critical damage more impactful on the enemy. And with this active skill, the enemy may lose the escape route of evading critical damage hits. That being said, let us move on to her passive skill next. When Anria hits a stunned enemy, she gains 1 layer of shield equal to 40% of the damage dealt by this attack. The shield lasts for 6 seconds. When she has a shield active, her attack speed will increase by 60%. Our Anria will retreat away from the enemy if they get too close, and while doing so, she deals 350% strength-based damage and knocks back the enemy. This retreat effect has a 8 seconds cooldown, but each normal attack Anria launches causes this cooldown to reduce by 0.5 seconds. Anria is focused on protecting herself with shields, increasing her own attack speed and dealing a little bit of damage. I don't feel super impressed by this skill, to be honest. It works in synergy with her active skill stun effects, but her attack speed buff may or may not be affected by the attack speed soft cap. And the damage she deals in this skill isn't super massive. But this is her passive skill after all, so I guess we cannot expect her to blow the heads off the enemies with this. She may become very durable if she launches strong attacks on stunned opponents. So she looks interesting in a way, but I feel a little bit uncertain so far. Anyways, we still have the ultimate skill left. Let us check it out. This is where she enters the enhanced state for 7 seconds. During this state, her normal attacks multiply into 3 attacks. She will aim for random enemies on the field and deal 230% strength damage to hit targets. Each of these multiplied attacks will apply a 8-second lasting purple moon mark to the enemies. When we attack enemies that are marked with purple moon, we will deal an additional true damage equal to 2% of their max constitution. This has a cap of 1500% strength. By hitting purple moon marked enemies, we also have a 60% chance to stun them for 0.5 seconds. So she deals damage to multiple enemies, places a mark on the enemy to increase the damage they take, and she may even stun them for half a second. I feel kinda sad that she will not strategically aim with this attack. It is randomized, and thus we don't know how it may turn out. We could be lucky, or we could be very unlucky with who she targets. But the chance of dealing true damage is dependent on the max constitution of our enemy, and that makes it sound worth it again. Her skills are overall very different from each other. She deals damage, debuffs enemies, protects herself, buffs herself and deals more AoE damage. She is just doing everything kinda. But one thing is the same for each skill of hers. Anria depends on the stun effect, and it is all linked together. Her active skill and ultimate skill has a chance of applying stun effects to the enemy, while the passive skill applies a shield to our Anria if we hit a stunned enemy. And it may not seem likely for us to hit a stunned enemy, but the effect of her ultimate skill makes it 3 times more likely for us to hit one or multiple stunned enemies. That being said, do you think our Umbra champions are worth it? I personally feel like the clan trait may be worth it in some team comps, but only if our allies deal plenty of critical damage. As for the champions, the male genuinely looks more promising than the female. It looks like Bloodline perhaps is trying to make a useful warrior, since most of our warriors up until now have been disappointing. The female looks weak in my opinion, but there are so many things going on in her skills, it makes it extremely hard for us to tell if she will perform well in battle or not. The male, however, could be great if we have one amazing strength-based DPS champion, hybrid or guardian in our team, who he can protect. In my very own personal opinion, would not go for either of these champions. I am just far too skeptical about warriors due to my previous bad experiences, and the female is too big of a risk for me. But it is entirely up to you if you want to summon for these champions or not. This clan may still be a great choice, even though I personally don't want this clan for my team. I think we have covered most of today's topic. Feel free to let us know your opinion in the comments section below regarding this clan. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you would like to take part in our giveaways, or keep up with our future contents. We highly appreciate your support and contribution. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Take care, stay foxy, adios, bye.